Cinema Worms.
Discussing everything from Grima Wormtongue to the Shy Halib.
I'm Sabib.
And I'm Linz.
And this is Cinema Worms Podcast. 1963's Cleopatra is the longest-running film nominated for Best Pictures at the Oscars at 251 minutes.
Today we're talking about Mission Impossible 8, The Final Reckoning. This is part 2 of the very last Mission Impossible film series. Part 1 in 2023 was called Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, and they were both written by Eric Jendresen and Christopher McQuarrie. McQuarrie also directed both parts, as well as the prior film Mission Impossible Fallout. This has been an epic series. It's actually the 17th highest grossing film series of all time, and from the very first Mission Impossible in 1996, it follows Tom Cruise's arguably most famous character, Ethan Hunt. Hunt is part of the IMF, which stands for Impossible Mission Force, which is really just firstly, it's really obviously, but also usefully named, because sometimes it's not an acronym because an acronym spells something, it's an initialism. Bit of trivia for our listener. These action spy films follow Ethan Hunt as he attempts to stop an enemy who poses some new threat to the world, but there's also an overarching plot which reaches its denouement here in Final Reckoning. So very Bond-esque in some ways and not in others. We won't go into too much detail about the overall series here, but to give a brief overview of the premise of Final Reckoning. Ethan Hunt is dealing with the aftermath of the events of the prior film. He's still chasing Nemesis Gabriel, played by S.A. Morales, who is acting on behalf of an AI called The Entity. And Hunt isn't alone. He has a team around him of famous actors, which includes Grace, a talented pickpocket played by Hayley Atwell, who you might have seen in the miniseries The Pillars of the Earth, or as Agent Peggy Carter in the Avengers films / her spin-off TV show Agent Carter, as well as other things. Now, Ethan Hunt's task in this film, should he choose to accept it, because that is the catchphrase, is to prevent the AI, the entity, from gaining access to global nuclear systems of the major powers, and thereby taking control of the world and destroying all life on Earth. Hunt has a daring plan, but can he and the team pull it off when everything comes down to a single action which lasts no more than the blink of an eye? Now, it's a really, really long film. I understand why it was as long as it was. I don't think it needed to be that long. For me, the submarine stuff could have been shaved down a little bit. But then again, I see why they wanted to indulge in it, because it is the final. You know, you want to go out with a bang. I know we disagreed about the length of it. I was certainly drifting off a little bit in parts, because I feel like we'd seen the submarine stuff quite recently with the Meg, and it was still kind of in my head. Obviously very different films.
I was thinking about...
I did
you
hope
mean
there
Meg 2, obviously.
Yes, obviously.
Meg
Sorry,
2, impossible walking along the bottom of the ocean.
When a deviated septum means that you're not immediately, like, all your internal organs are not crushed when you're, like, in the Marianas Trench, yes.
By the way, just like the Phoenician Scheme, which we'll also be talking about this episode, about half of Hollywood is in each of these films.
Literally. We kept pointing. It was like, oh, look, it's your man from Severance. Oh, it's your woman from Severance. Oh, it's Simon Pegg. Oh, it's someone else. Oh, and I recognize her, and I recognize him. At one point you said, afterwards, you were like, oh, it's the actress from Love Lies Bleeding. I did not actually recognize her because I'm a bit face blind.
It's like Katie O'Brien.
Yeah.
I know her name.
I didn't. I'm both slightly face blind, and also I was overloaded with how many people were in this that I recognized. It was like every second person was famous.
Yeah, we joked that there would just be like these super famous people who it's not like cameos, they just like have a scene and they play their part.
Or Janet McTeer, Hannah Waddingham turning up as the captain or a general or whatever she was of a battleship, aircraft carrier.
Yeah,
I know what ships are.
Yeah, a lot of different vessels of great import. Yeah, they roll in, they do their super serious epic cameo, and they bounce. And I mean, it was great. It worked.
That's fine.
Yeah. So it's this Mission Impossible. Okay, so like a disclaimer that we do not endorse Tom Cruise worship nor the cult of Scientology, but
Respect to him for the things that he does, though.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. This is a great, fun film series for the ones I've seen, which have been the recent ones, and I had a great time. It feels like these are the kinds of films that that keep epic filmmaking alive and in the theater. It's a cinematic experience, you know, in the vein of Sinners, like these sort of cultural events that, you know, you show up for and you just love being in the cinema and you're just engrossed. And I mean, I enjoy it.
There was a little film thing from Tom Cruise right beforehand where he said basically that he thanked people for working on it, and he was like, it's important to keep cinema alive. People have called him the last action hero, and I don't think they're necessarily wrong. I mean, I can't think of anybody who fits that same kind of mold from the younger generation who's doing it all. Michael B. Jordan might be. He's certainly, I'd like to see him in some more stuff, but he's got a range like Cruise.
They're both great actors, like actually great actors and just commanding of the screen. Yeah, I mean, this okay. It's a lot to pull off plotting something that's like essentially completely absurd and over the top, but it's totally like quote unquote like 90s action, sort of like drama and like everything's heightened, and it's like it just captures all of that like classic action movie stuff and like takes it to like 1,000%, and it works.
It does. There were parts that did border on a little bit cheesy, but the thing is, you can tell that like Cruise really means it. You know, he is dedicated to this thing. Not the things that he said I didn't feel were cheesy, because you feel that he completely embodies the role and he really means, like, he's like full on 100%. He is in.
Everyone's committed.
Yeah, but there were a couple of lines that I was like, damn, this if this hadn't been done by this cast, like, it's verging on cheesy. But you expect this kind of thing from an action film.
Action horror, maybe that's the next thing you want to be writing or watching.
You know, I don't know what, there's a little bit of a Freudian slip there, and you know what they say, if it's not one thing, it's your mother. But there were, because I don't like submarine things. They creep me out. I feel breathless. I don't like it. It's claustrophobic and it's under the sea. Those are two of my fears combined. Yeah. So I was like not comfortable with the sub stuff. Maybe that's why I wanted it shaved down as well.
Yeah, you're like not wanting to watch someone potentially drown for like 30 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I find that a little bit stressful. And certainly you're right, there was a lot going on. I do feel like they managed to, no spoilers, but they managed to kind of, everything gets sort of wrapped up in a way. But there was quite a lot going on. But don't worry, because they repeatedly tell you in every second scene what the goals are, just in case you forgot. It is being spoon-fed so gently. They're making airplane noises, but in a nice way.
But you know what? Maybe because, you know, we're writers, like, I am in awe of something that is complexly plotted, that actually is somehow quite simple, and the motivations are clear, and the tension is constantly being escalated. That's great.
I mean, yeah, it's a bit of a masterclass in, look, your protagonist wants something, now it's your job to basically play what we would call keepy-uppy and keep the thing that they want away from them as long as possible by putting more and more obstacles together. We talk about this in our writing and in the courses and workshops that we teach, and we usually use Fitzwilliam for this, don't we? Because Fitz wants cheese. And how do we get the cheese away from him? How do we put the obstacles in front of him that he has to navigate to reach his ultimate goal, which is the cheese? And if you think about it in those terms, it becomes a bit easier to plot your character. But Ethan Hunt's cheese is, stopping this AI entity. An equally worthy goal as cheese.
And the emotional context there is also like his moral center and protecting those around him that he's loyal to and loves. And I'm like, that's a compelling character motivation for a big action movie.
So, and it's not so it's not just the world, it's also the people he cares about, but also he is, like, you can see that he is still torn in various places, because should he put his team in danger, or, you know, sacrifice them in some way, even if they have sort of like willingly given that up, or, you know, does he prioritize the people who are closest to him in order to save the world? or not. You know, it's a bit of a trolley problem over and over for him, which is nice to see.
Yes.
And it doesn't always work out, which is good, because you don't want them to feel like they have plot armor. Everything's always solved. Nobody can ever die. Certainly not the case in these films. A lot of people have died.
Yeah.
That he's been close to.
And so, final point, I think it's also just like, are you into this kind of film? Maybe you were like less so. And I was like, yay, fun.
It was fun. And I enjoyed a lot of the fighting scenes. They were really well done, and there was always something kind of new. It felt like we barely got a breath between fight scenes. There was always a lot going on. And again, he doesn't always come off the best in a fight, you know, so occasionally he like slips or he does something. He's human. He's not an inhuman spy who is like perfectly equipped to handle every situation. He is doing his best with what he has. Scrappy is the word that I would use. He like uses things to hand, you know, his reflexes are good. He's not always like, because Cruise is a little bit shorter, he's not always like as physically imposing as some of his opponents, but he uses everything to his advantage, which is quite nice. And of course, Tom Cruise doing his own stunts.
Insane stunts.
Does make, oh geez, the thing with the plane, like, I was, if I hadn't known that he'd done his own stunts, I think I would also have been watching the plane stuff through kind of the fingers of one hand. But knowing that as well made it actually more exciting, because wow, those were some insane stunts. I fear for this man's life.
Yeah, but he lived.
He did live
somehow.
But you know, he can't do that forever. Good God, man, you must have like, once again, the Florence Pugh school of I have steel knees. They won't last forever. But yeah, if you're into Mission Impossible, then you must go and see the final, basically, episode in this to wrap everything kind of up. I don't know that we're going to see something with that kind of longevity. I mean, geez, it's been going for
30 years.
Almost 30 years. That is wild.
So another film with a million actors that are extremely famous coming in and playing.
Listen, Hollywood's getting work. It's good.
Yeah, very distinctive.
Keep cinema alive.
Yeah, big budget films. So Phoenician Scheme, I believe, is a 12th feature-length film from Wes Anderson, writer and director. He also devised the story itself with Roman Coppola. So this is one of his wildest films yet. Super extravagant and high budget. It just felt really high budget. I was like, this is a grand film. And it's following the main character of the world famous businessman Zaza Korda. And I believe he's from the fictional Phoenicia within this film, somehow set around, I don't know, early 1900s. And he's this sort of magnate, corrupt, powerful figure who controls, you know, politics and business and economies. And the CIA is after him, and also various assassins. So the film starts with a hilarious plane crash that he somehow survives. And the CIA is like, man, we got to stop this guy. So they somehow sabotage the price of lead, which totally screws over Mr. Zaza Korda's grand business plan, which was to create this great complex of canals, train lines, power plants in the nation of modern, greater, independent Phoenicia. And he's going to somehow get, I didn't understand the economics of it, but he's going to get this like 5% return over 150 years. The CIA has totally screwed him. So he needs to go around. The film basically follows him going to his various investors who are going to be financing this great endeavor. The investors are played by Prince Farouk, Riz Ahmed, brothers played by Tom Hanks and Bryan Cranston, a nightclub owner played by Matthew Amlaric. There's Jeffrey Wright as like a ship captain, Scarlett Johansson, Benedict Cumberbatch as his sort of even more evil brother, Uncle Nubar. And Benicio del Toro's character, Korda, brings along his almost nun daughter, who he doesn't know very well.
Almost nun.
She's an almost nun. She's a nun in training. He has like 11 children, and he's not very close with them. But, you know, he calls up his 21-year-old daughter, Sister Liesel, played by Mia Threppleton, Kate Winslet's daughter, and he wants her to help him get all these finances in order. So they're just sort of going on this madcap adventure around to these various investors and getting chased by assassins and multiple plane crashes. So, and you have, there are little sequences that go when he almost dies and has these near-death experiences. He goes to this other place that's basically like heaven, but it's also some sort of Greek tragedy, and there's God, played by Bill Murray.
That was amazing.
That's the general plot. I forgot to mention Michael Cera, who is a central character in the film.
How could you?
I know.
He's actually one of the best.
He's absolutely one of the best.
He's fantastic.
He's a bug tutor named Bjorn.
No,
Bjorn.
This sounds like he's tutoring bugs. But he's not. He's teaching the children, the boy children of Zsa Corda about insects. So if you like Wes Anderson films, then you will probably like this. There's a certain kind of vibe and aesthetic from Wes Anderson films. Now, Anderson is kind of a hit and miss director for me. More hits than misses, I think. I really like The French Dispatch. I like The Grand Budapest Hotel. What was the last one? The alien one?
Asteroid City.
Asteroid City, I like that. And I really enjoyed the shorts made of Roald Dahl stories that were on Netflix.
They won Oscars.
Partly Wes Anderson, partly because those stories are actually some pretty great stories. But I haven't enjoyed some of his other work. It can be quirky in a way that sometimes just doesn't quite land. And I felt like this was one of those. There were definitely things that I found interesting about it and that I enjoyed. And there were some jokes and stuff that I thought were pretty funny. But overall, I left thinking that I wasn't sure that I really liked it or enjoyed it. I definitely saw it. But it was one of the films that I have seen. But there was something about it that left me feeling a bit cold. And I'm wondering why that is.
Yeah, it's perhaps the degree of absurdity and comedy.
Oh, no, I don't think so, because I love a farce. I love a farce.
Yes.
I grew up watching the Marx Brothers. I love a farcical comedy. But no, there was just something about it that kind of... the quirkiness in a different way.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were both really tired when we were seeing this film. I was like, just towards the end, like, oh my God, I could fall asleep right here. I hadn't slept much the night before. So yeah, it's hard to watch a film like that when you're that tired and there's so much going on and you're jumping from thing to thing. And I think for me, it's, I love Wes Anderson and some of his films are like amongst my favorites. So I've seen basically almost all of them except for like one or two. So it's very much in line with the kinds of his like extremely specific style, orchestrated style. And what is it? There's a word that's escaping me. I guess I'm still tired, but the beautiful artifice of it. Mm-hmm. So it's a mad caper. It's like whimsical. It's absurd. And I do think, emotionally, because what's great about his films is they can really unexpectedly emotionally like devastate you or engross you, even when it's like this sort of high artifice, because just something about the charisma of the character, these moments of unexpected tragedy or romance or sexiness that absolutely he can pull off and beautifully, which I think, in The French Dispatch, we need to rewatch that. I loved that movie.
I was like, what was sexy about this film though?
Not this one. I'm saying
or just the other ones. Yeah, he has.
Yeah, I'm remembering like moments in the Darjeeling Limited. There's this like moment with the three brothers on a train, and Jason Schwartzman is about to hook up with this Indian woman. And there was a specific element of the scene where I was like, oh wow, Wes Anderson, you just like can bring on the romance and the sexiness. Like he can just always surprise you. For this film, I do think it somehow there's the lack of emotional ingratiating for me.
I feel like there was too much going on and there were too many characters. I think if that had been dialed down a little bit, there would have been something. And I given the cast, like you've got Scarlett Johansson, you have Benedict Cumberbatch, you've got Tom Hanks, you've got Rupert Friend. Like there's a lot of people in this. I mean, Riz Ahmed is always fantastic. I really enjoy him in everything he's been in. there's a lot of people who can act and who did act here, but there was something that, for me, it felt disjointed. There was not enough connecting each of the parts, or connecting the characters to me. We didn't spend enough time with any of them for me to kind of get that. And the main ones of Benicio del Toro and Kate Winslet, whose name I have immediately forgotten.
Mia Thruppleton.
Mia
and
Thruppleton, thank you.
Sister Liesel.
She left me feeling a little bit cold as well. So, I understand what Anderson was going for. It just didn't quite work for me.
Yeah, I want to, I do want to see it again at some point when I'm less tired. I know it won't be one of my favorites of his, but I think that there could be more to it uncovered on a second viewing. And Michael Cera is absolutely
he kind of
marvelous.
I actually think if Michael Cera hadn't been there, I would have liked this film a lot less.
Yeah.
He was absolutely fantastic.
I'm so glad you agree. There's just something about him. I'm not going to lie. He had some sort of suave.
I think what I described it as, he had that Chalamet swagger.
Yes, absolutely.
He was absolutely channeling some French Dispatch Timothy there.
Yeah, but he's also, he is doing his own Michael Cera, but serious.
Bad boy
absurd.
Michael.
Yeah, bad boy Michael. But
I liked it.
It just, I don't want to give anything away. His character is randomly amazing.
Yeah.
So those are our thoughts, I think. Maybe we need to see it again. If you
like Anderson, you may like this more. If you're a big fan. If not, it's still worth seeing because aesthetically it's very interesting. There are quite a lot of jokes going on that are quite funny. It is worth seeing and making up your own mind about this film.
Yeah, tell us your thoughts.